Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast. We're super excited to come back to you with the origin story part 2. We had part 1 quite a while ago, right after the book release, sometime in, I guess, June-ish?
Ish.
Yeah. June-ish. And so now we're going to delve a little bit deeper. We're going to let Samantha, who has read the book, right?
Yes.
At least you told me you did.
I did. I sent her a bunch of edits.
You helped me edit. Yeah, you did good.
And I kept saying, oh my God, this part, this is unbelievable. Like, it was
texting me at all hours of the night.
Yes.
No, but she's going to ask some questions. She'll be the interviewer today. And I have a few notes myself that I want to remember to say. And we're going to get into some more ET stuff.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Galactic stuff.
So let's just mention first, if anybody hasn't caught it yet, that the book is available through you guys. If it's through you guys, you can sign, you do a signature. And if it's through Amazon, you can get it through Amazon, but you guys said it's now Kindle.
Right. You can get it upon Kindle.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I just wanted to point that out because I thought I read a lot of Kindle, but of course I have my own copy of the book.
Right.
But in Kindle, like I like highlighting things and stuff. So it gets very handy.
Oh, you highlight in Kindle.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't like that. I have to have a physical book. I got to flip. I need to see the back, the front, read. I don't like Kindle.
So this is a really, it's just not, a simple fun read, light and whatever. It's so intense and it grabs a hold of you and you don't want to put it down. And so for me, why I want to get it on Kindles, I like having Kindle on my desktop. So then, I've got a big screen in front of me and I'm highlighting stuff. And then you have those notes that then, you can't just search through a book. You can do find on the Kindle and it'll jump to what you need because there's so many things that you'll read in this that I'm super fan. There's so many things that you read in this that you go, oh my God, I remember when they said this and the connection of this. And like you start seeing these patterns.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting. Yeah. Good point. I do mark in pencil. So, I'm one of those old school people that does not write in books. Oh my gosh. But I've started marking some
deep dog ear.
No, that's blasphemy.
Come on.
Anything in a book? No. But I have started marking in pencil a few things that really stand out that I want to remember.
But not actually in the real book. It's only the proof.
True.
So
that's
it's not the actual book. So she still hasn't swayed from her.
I can't mar up a perfectly beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
anywho, it is available in Kindle. That just happened last week for those of you who the shipping costs were prohibitive. I've heard that before. So you can get it on Kindle and again, a signed copy through our website or Amazon. That's the quickest way to get one.
Yep.
And it's a must read. It's simply a must read. It should be on the New York Times bestseller. I think after we move through this whole ascension process, then people are going to go, oh my God, I have to have this because it's, but until then, half the world will be kind of in the dark about it.
We'll see. It's energetic. And what they said from the get-go is whoever needs it will get it.
But so I will say it has, just looking on our, sales site for Amazon of how many, it actually has been put into a lot of hands. So there's been a lot of people that have purchased it. I wish I could see a bit more granularity to see, what the demographic is, where they are in the world and all that. But even just through our site of people who have ordered it, it's we've had people from around the world order it. So yeah.
And people are reaching out. It's so interesting. I've had 2 women in the past week.
Yes.
One from the Midwest who just said,
wow.
Has anybody told you that this book is like holographic or multidimensional? Because
oh my God.
I'm like, because she was like, this is crazy, this energy. She goes, I can hardly keep my eyes open as I'm reading the book.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And then this other girl from New York, she was getting ready to buy the book and she's like, I really need to chat with you. I want to chat with you. So we had a nice chat yesterday morning about the book. So people are just reaching out that have no idea. That don't know us out of the blue because it's so profoundly impacted them or whatever. So it's really cool.
That's good. Well, okay.
It's really cool.
So with all of that going on, it's like, I want to jump to the course thing, but I'm going to do this first. So since having done this book, have you had any new messages, any new insights, any new conversations with those that have delivered this message to y'all?
Yes. actually.
Will's going,
I'm
I don't
looking
know.
because I'm just the guy. So.
You'll know when I tell you. But anyway, this was a biggie. So we had a girl who had done a session with us previously when we first found out about the primary alignment.
Oh, that's right.
Your
Yeah.
2 strands of DNA, one's primary, one's source cluster.
Mhm.
And,
explain that just real quick. What's the purpose of the primary versus the second?
so
the
your
source?
DNA has 12 strands, but 2 are primary every time that you come in. That's why we know we have 2 strands of DNA. One is for your primary galactic alignment, which works with you on a day-to-day basis, whether you realize it or whether you don't. The other one is your source cluster connection, and that's where you get a lot of your characteristics from that cluster.
Okay.
And that cluster helps you in times of transition.
Mine's
that's
Pleiadian and Lyran.
Yeah.
Well, first say transition because some people make it confused.
Oh, transitions in your life. Transitions.
Like big
like,
events during your lifetime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not
Like
your transition out of the
Major
body.
Yeah.
decisions that are taking place or major disruptions in your life, that kind of thing. That's when your source cluster will
Right.
amplify and come
And if
through.
you have a copy of the book, I think it's spoken about in the Draconian chapter at length, and also in Andromedan, maybe in the first.
Mhm.
I think they're the first to mention it.
So if I had this on my Kindle, like on my desktop, I could just search and we could answer that real quick and we'd know exactly where.
See, I can too, because I have the manuscript because I
okay.
wrote it.
Right.
But not
Better
everybody
remember.
can.
It's
Yeah.
a lot to remember, but
Yeah.
It is a lot.
you do soak up. I mean, I'm sure after having all that come through, you soak up a lot of that information.
Yep.
Okay. So with this,
Oh, okay. So the new information that came through. So we had a client.
do you
who-
notice the energy, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Like you guys, it is suddenly pumped
Yeah,
up. Like
yeah.
it is just so intense right now.
It could
I feel
be
like we're
because
bouncing off the walls.
because I'm using some of Mark Boyarski's incense
Is
that
that what that is?
that
I'm
has
sitting
the-
there
the
smelling
moldavite.
that has the moldavite
Yeah.
in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's very
Because
cool.
we just called them in with the moldavite.
Right.
And
Okay.
because I'm pumped about the topic, because I love talking about the 12. They're
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is not just a book promotion. This is really
We're jumping into some
Interesting.
cool
It's
stuff.
Interesting
behind the scenes
information.
insights of
Yeah.
this whole process.
And you
yeah.
never get to hear that kind of stuff from a lot of authors.
Mhm.
You really don't get. I just
The in-depth.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. You don't.
okay. So.
Okay, third time we're going to try this.
I keep interrupting. It's me. It's my fault.
And no, it's okay. There's so much to talk about. Anyway, so we had a client who had she knew her primary and her source.
Mhm.
She had a secondary session with us, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, at least.
She wanted to do just the galactics and ask certain galactic questions. So I didn't remember because I don't remember and I don't commit to memory the contents of people's sessions that long, even a few days after.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I asked again who her primary and her source. I didn't realize we had already asked it and I wasn't sure, but I wanted to know. So I asked it and she wrote to me later and said that it had changed. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did I give her wrong information? What the heck? So we did a channeling after that and I asked and they said, actually, it doesn't happen too often, but it is fairly common that you can change those two. And actually you're changing your contract a little bit because if we talked about contracts and how you have this path
Mhm.
and it's fairly wide, but it has several lanes in it is what they described. And so you can kind of jump tracks from one lane to another and back.
Mhm.
And change your timeline.
Depending on
And-
what you need to accomplish.
Correct. And if you
Mhm.
do that and you change your timeline, then it can change the 2 strands, your connection with whoever, because somebody else might need to come in and help you with that assignment.
Because you're embodying all 12 strands. It's just that 2 of them are active.
Correct.
Mhm.
And you can only have 2 active. So sometimes those have to change. So we've heard one
Mhm.
other person that said hers
Yeah.
had changed. So that was interesting and that's good to know. And that's
Mhm.
not in the book to my knowledge. Because it happened after the fact.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the other thing is not a contradiction or additional information, but we just recently talked to a 10th dimensional crystalline collective that we had talked to in 2021.
Mm.
And they gave us some really cool information the first
Mm.
time. And so I wanted to follow up with them. And we did that about a week or so ago. And they confirmed the timelines that are in the book. So we're still on that same trajectory.
Mhm.
So in the book, they said, I think 12 to 18 months for the first round of awakening.
Mhm. So we're talking about the
We're not talking
awakening
about-
The
process.
ascension process.
Ascension process, not this awakening that we're already in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then these guys, the Crystalline Collective, just told us that we're looking at around June of next year, which would be that exact same timeline.
Yeah, that would be the beginning, at the earliest, the 12-month mark. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, they said that we're in a 1-year kind of chaotic transition that started this past June, and it's going to run through June of 2024 is when we'll start to become more stable, that
Mhm.
there'll still be spikes of chaos, but that will be a little bit more stable. And I said, well, that's interesting because that's 4 months before our elections. And to me, that's very
Yeah.
unstable. And they said, basically, this is minor.
It's
Your
not about
little
you.
US elections are very minor. We're talking about worldwide,
Yeah.
worldwide
Global.
evolution.
Mhm.
Right. So they made it sound like, please don't put so much.
And that really is just a part of the game. Like that's a show. It's
Yeah.
for the people that are playing the political track.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's them. It's
That's that
not,
avenue,
it's
right.
not, people going to work every day,
Right.
it just, yeah.
So those are the few things I wanted to talk about since the book came
Mhm.
out, that new insight.
Yep.
Okay. I love that. All right. So the next one, I'm looking down because I didn't write it out. Okay. Okay. So what interviews have you done thus far for the book?
Well, we had a really fun one not too long ago with Laura Eisenhower.
Yep.
Will and I did both. That was
Yep.
fun. It went beautifully.
And explain who Laura Eisenhower is for people who,
And so Laura
'cause I didn't know
Eisenhower,
this.
yeah, she's the great granddaughter of President Eisenhower, and she
Mhm.
wrote the foreword for the book.
And that's not that is necessarily her, it's just her connection so that it gives you a point of reference of who she is, but she's a pretty amazing person in her own right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the reason that her connection to him is important is because
Mm.
that ancestry, that lineage came here to do certain things, to bring truth to humanity, particularly in regard to our galactic ancestry.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
Eisenhower was highly involved in that and was in communication with Valiant Thor, one of the Venusians,
Mhm.
and so is Laura. She actually, I think, just rekindled her connection with Valiant Thor, or just opened it.
Yeah.
I heard her on another interview talking about she was getting
interesting.
some information from Valiant Thor.
And they both have lineage in the Venusian line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Did you do the thing with her of what her connection
Yeah.
was?
we did. I
Can
don't
you say-
recall.
Yeah,
I don't recall.
Because you guys,
Other
yeah,
than
you tend to
Venusian
not.
and I thought, one was Venusian and I don't know what the other one, I don't remember what the other
But
one
she
is.
did give us permission. We've done a couple of sessions with her
Mhm.
from her higher self to bring forth some information that she needed to help her, which she
Very cool
alluded
connection.
to that. So she is willing to have us share that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
she's super powerful. She's a truth teller.
Yep.
It's in her genetic line, her ancestral line. And so that's why Eisenhower and her link to
Mhm.
Eisenhower is important, not just because of name recognition.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to make
Right.
sure. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's not just because of the president. Yeah.
No,
Right.
Okay.
So we did
Cool.
that interview, and that was really talking about the origin story.
that's our most recent one. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
The other one that was really talking about the origin story was the one with Augie Nost
Mhm.
on Broadcast Team Alpha. His presence on YouTube is not huge. I don't know if it's because of the topics that they get into and,
Mhm.
all of that. So, but I couldn't find him on Rumble either. So I'm not sure. I think our interview was on YouTube at one point.
Yeah.
I saw it there, and we have it on all of these interviews that I'm talking about are on our YouTube channel, the same channel that you're watching this from, and you can
Mhm.
see it under
Playlist. If you go to
Playlists.
playlists and it's special appearances.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that one we got into the book topics as well. We
Mhm.
did an interview also with Todd Medina from Soul Speaks.
Mm.
He's starting his own network
Yep.
where he's having his own shows. People can create whatever content that they want and,
Yep.
and be their own hosts.
Mhm.
So he's really on the groundbreaking floor of all of that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
We didn't get into too much of the content of the origin
No.
story. I think we talked more about us and
Mhm.
evolution and all
Touched
of that
on a
sort of
little
stuff.
bit, but just, yeah.
And then we did one with Kayla Bloom.
Mhm.
And again, we did get into ETs with her and multidimensionality and all of that, but not so much about just the origin story. But
So we're going to do more of that here.
Mhm.
yeah, but what's interesting with Kayla is we've alluded on this podcast quite a lot about how Will started with a QHHT session with a practitioner, and that was her. Kayla.
Oh,
She's the one that used to live in Charleston, and she came over and did your first
Yes.
QHHT.
And subsequent sessions.
That started all of this, and the rest is history. So we connected with her. We haven't connected with her in quite a while, and so we reconnected. It was nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like all that. Okay. So a lot of stuff going on there. And so if you're a podcaster out there and have a wide audience that you feel like needs to hear this message and hopefully focus more on, the origin story, this would be good to reach out to these guys.
For sure.
And get them on there. Okay. And I was wondering the thing, and we don't have to go into this, I realize I'm saying this live, but the thing in Kentucky, is that in part due to the origin story? Or is that a separate?
It actually got its start there. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a roundabout way. You have a better handle on it. So go ahead.
So there's a physician in Kentucky who reached out to us, and he had heard of us through his L&L research group. L&L Research is actually the nonprofit arm of the folks that started channeling the raw material.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. They channeled that in around 89-ish.
Somewhere on there, yeah.
And then they stayed in Kentucky and they founded L&L Research. And I guess they do still some channelings periodically. I don't know how often. And this doctor would go to those channelings. And in that circle of L&L people, somehow our book story came up. Somebody had heard of it.
Somebody actually read it. And
they compared the material in it to the raw material, and that it was consistent, that it matched up with some of the stuff. And that's a great honor, to be honest, that our name is in the same kind of realm,
and realm as that. Yeah.
So that was fantastic. So he was like, well, he was coming down here for a vacation and he wanted to have a personal session. So he did. He was so blown away by that session that he invited us up to Kentucky. We're going to go in October to speak to his medical conference. I don't know how much of the origin story we will get into at that medical conference, but we definitely are going to do a channeling and then give a talk. So we'll see. But he kind of did find us through the origin story and the channeling.
Yeah. That's really exciting.
It is. It's like I said, this book is getting into certain people's hands, and then these connections that are being made are so divinely orchestrated. It's just fun to watch.
Now, so if you have the book, or if you're planning to go out and get the book and you start reading it, you'll understand why we're so excited about all of this, because, again, this book on a vibrational level, on informational level, it's just intense. It's super intense. And when you read it, there, like I was saying before, I like being able to highlight things and so forth, because as you're reading it, there's a pattern that's occurring. And it's not just one pattern of they build on top of each other, which just blows my mind. They like know where the one left off and the next one picks up. And yet there are several patterns that they go through that you just go, okay, I can see this is similar, but this is different with these people, and this are these galactics. And I don't know how to explain it, but there's so much there that it's more than just the story. There's so much more you can learn from it. So I was excited to hear that you guys were creating a course for this. And we're going to talk about the course a little bit more towards the end. But due to this material, besides the fact that you wrote the book, and so a lot of the information has sort of, just penetrated into you, going back and doing the course, again, you're reminded of these patterns, you're, reminded of the flavor of all of these. And you've been working with a lot of these galactics even longer than the book. So you've got a feel, but that's kind of a deep dive immersion. So I remember asking you this the first time. You're like, I just got the book out there. I feel like I can't think about that right now. So now I can ask you these questions.
Well, but the interesting thing is that the course didn't come about as just something let's just do a course. No, it actually, when that dropped in, it kind of came in similar to the book aspect as far, okay, yep, this is something. But immediately on the heels of that, I think we had two, if not two people, maybe three people that reached out and said, have you guys ever thought about doing
I was one of them.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing like a book study on this? Because this would be perfect.
If you don't do it, I'm doing it.
Right. And so it was all encompassed within a very short amount of time. So we're like, okay, universe, we get the hint. We're going to, let's move forward with this. So
a book study kind of thing.
More than a course. Yeah.
So
I got to figure out a way to phrase all of these, because I'm not dissing any of the races. I had my own personal like experiences with them. There was one that I just thought, oh my God, this is just too, like, I can't get into this particular galactic race at all. And by the time I finished reading that chapter of what they offered, I was like near tears, and I'm just going, seriously, how can this
I know
be?
who you're talking about.
Yeah. So, so I'm going to kind of ask, like, which of these did you feel this with? Just because I'm curious.
Okay.
And if I'm curious, there's somebody else out there who's wondering. So which race spoke to you the most? Like, which race did it feel like you feel either they got you or you got them? There was a strong connection.
They got me. Well, see, I like them for different reasons.
Okay.
I think it was either the Arcturians or the Pleiadians that were giving me such high level, and I talked about it in the introduction, such high level information that I had to draw a diagram and I had to keep asking them. I think I had like 2 sessions with them because I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was so
high level, or just your brain just
high level. So my brain was having a hard time computing it. So I remember drawing this ladder. And they said, okay, on the first rung is this and the second rung is that. And I'm like, I think I'm just not smart enough. And they were like, this is why we're here to help you. And I just felt like, oh, you really want me to get this because you want others to get this. And I have to get it so I can share it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just felt so loved and so cared for, and like their relationship with me was important. And so in that way, that was really important. But in terms of love, the Hadarians,
that was the one I was talking about.
Yeah, because I thought so too. When you look at their chapter and it's all about love, and it's not like the Orions.
It feels almost gushy at first, and then you just end up getting so drawn into it.
Because the Orion was fantastic, with fantastic, good information about like the future and ascension and all this. And that's what I love, that kind of stuff.
We want answers.
And then the Lyrans had really good information like that also. And then the Draconians. So those were like, exciting. But in terms of love, it was the Hadarians. When I connected with them, I literally, and like I said, I don't sense energy as strongly as some people, but the energy and the love that came through, it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So, some of them are my favorites for different reasons. And then the Venusians, they were the ones that gave this high level information about the source of the source of the source of the source, all the layers of source and the layers of God, or the layers of all this stuff. And so all of them had such a different feel. And the Agarthans also were very, like more down to earth, because they are kind of maybe closer to humans because they're right here on our planet, inside of our planet. And so they also kind of felt like a stronger, special relationship with humanity and me, us. So, yeah.
Did you take any of that away? Like, I know that you're kind of not present, but the energy's flowing through you. So if I had to recount, some of the intense sessions, Venusians stick out in my mind. Like when I'm in trance, the only thing I remember is the intensity of the energy, and they all had their own unique, energy signature, but for whatever reason, the Venusians just really, there was a profound level to their energy and it wasn't that I was directly connecting to them. I was connecting via Allison. So this is what everybody has to understand. And it's in the book. Allison was the pure channel, the pure antenna for this information. I was just tapping into her energy to bring it through in voice. So it's kind of like a pass through, where if I'm connecting to your higher self, I'm directly connecting to your higher self.
So this is a new experience.
This is a very new experience. Mm-hmm. And so each one was different. Like I can tell you when I connect to higher selves, there's a bit of commonality between higher selves. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's that, some are very high, some are very low, so not bad.
Not low. No. Just
energetically.
If I'm on a mountain peak and I come halfway down, I'm low, right? You know, but I'm still up high. It's just, there's little nuances, but in general, a higher self has a commonality to it. Each time I dropped in, it was some different level. But the Venusians themselves, for whatever reason, and I have not read the entirety of the book, but the level coming out of that was so profound that I just remember that you had kind of that same, when we came out of that one.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah, there was such a tangible, like, remnant of that and of the Venusian energy.
That's funny, because I don't remember it either way. I don't remember it not being,
because some of them you'd get done and go, wow, that was others. And I think the Venusians, the Hadarians, and maybe one or two others, that when you were like, oh my God, you're never going to believe. And
but
then
usually it's because of the content, which is why some of them, some of them were more like, so
because you like getting the answers,
like
the future answers.
So the Andromedans set the stage, and they're given the background, and they're like the school teacher professor, and they're aside from our galaxies. So, you know, the Andromedan galaxy is next to ours. So they're, you know, observing. And so they were good. It was good, sturdy information. And then we had the Agarthans, and they're a little bit more loving information and kind of willy-nilly and jumping around and stuff like that. But then we get to the Orions, and I'm like, holy crap. Now we're getting into the meat and I mean, we're like, they just went. And I think somebody else commented about the Orion chapter about it's just so much stuff, so many revelations and things like that. So they were the first one that went pow. But the other interesting thing was, because this energy was coming through me for the first time, and I'm not, again, I wasn't the most energetic. I wasn't used to that high level of energy. So they told me not to have an agenda, not to have questions or anything like that. So I'm winging it, and I'm thinking, how am I going to? So the first thing, the energy was so strong with the Andromedans, I closed my eyes, and I'm just doing this.
Swirling.
The energy just made my body move, and I was moving, and my eyes were closed, but somehow my thoughts were still clear. So I'm in one part of my mind, I'm thinking, how am I ever going to make this make sense? You know, I'm used to being that left brain of,
and you're just sitting there waiting.
No, I'm in already. I'm already in bringing it through. I'm already bringing it through.
Oh my God. So this is like a reaction, or not a reaction, but being within that energy. Or having that go on.
So as they're talking and I'm absorbing it all, and I'm halfway thinking, I'm just so relaxed and so in this energy, how am I going to know how to take this conversation forward? But yet it was coming in and it was clear. So I'm thinking I'm not going to remember, but I actually had clear thought within that state to ask the next follow-up question, or to keep track of what was being said. Because at that point I couldn't open my eyes and write. My eyes were like closed the whole time. Finally, and I only could go about an hour with that one. And then the Agarthans, I had to do 2 sessions with the Andromedans because it was only an hour each. Then we went to the Agarthans. It was getting a little easier. And by the time we got to the 4th or 5th, I was able to go for like almost 2 hours and be able to actually take some notes and pay attention. The energy was still, I would move constantly. So it was a very unique experience.
Well, there's something about with the Venusians, each time you've brought them up, I keep getting a sense of a very high vibe, different from, I mean, like, I don't know, like if you were to do hertz on it or something, it would be like it is coming through on a really high vibe. And I don't know what is that correct? Because that's what I keep saying.
I think so, because the Venusians too are aligned with the
you were reading my mind. The Hathors. Yeah.
Yeah. The Hathors. So they're very high level. And so they hold a very sustainable, high vibrational experience when you connect to them. And I've connected to the Hathors a couple of times. Our good friend Maria, who we've interviewed before, that's one of them that she connects with quite often. And every time I've connected to the Hathors, it's probably some of the most upper level energy,
Mhm.
aside from say even going all the way up to source and connecting with source or, anything like
And
that.
interestingly, the Hathors are kind of midway.
Mhm.
The point of them was to give you a bridge to the Venusians
Mhm.
as a stepping stone,
Yeah.
because the pure Venusians are hard to connect with, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know
Energetically.
what this is that I'm feeling, but I think there's something more with you guys and the Venusians, because
Oh.
this just it keeps coming back. And each time you say it, they're like, yeah, they're like
Oh,
there's
really?
something there. So I don't
Who
know.
knows? We might be tapping into something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
this is like-
fascinated anyway with the Venusians because of Valiant Thor.
Mhm.
If you haven't read that, Stranger in the Pentagon, I think it's
Mhm.
called.
Yeah.
You can find that on Amazon, and it talks about Valiant Thor, who came in and worked with the government for 3 years, came right in on a spaceship. I think he landed on the Capitol lawn or something.
Well, there's something more, because it's like a cheering section over
And,
here. Like it's the weirdest thing going on. I gotta tell y'all, it's just
And if you are
crazy.
feeling connected to the Venusians and or the Hathors, Tom Kenyon, I don't know how much he does still. I don't see his newsletters now, but he would always bring forth the energy of the Hathors in a toning kind of way. And it's very eerie sounding, but it's super energetic to listen to.
Have you guys done anything to understand what level they're vibrating at, or if like they're coming through a certain hertz level, or
Oh gosh, I don't know.
No,
I was just curious.
I did. I think after one of the very first channelings, and where they talked about kind of the origin points of everything coming from sound, or everything was derived from a sound, from a vibrational tone. I did try to kind of tap into focused on all of the starseed connections, or all the galactic connections, and see if there was a frequency tone that might be associated with them, but I never got any sort of direct confirmative, I don't even know if that's a word, but a confirmed, a confirmed frequency or hertz that they're assigned to. I'm sure somebody else has.
There is. Yeah.
I just haven't. I was trying to intuitively kind of lock in to see if there was something, but I couldn't.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. It made me think that, because of that. Like I can almost, I don't know why I keep wanting to say 932, and I don't know why. And that's literally
take a note.
A dart, but it they keep showing me something way up here, like a tone, and I'm not into all of that. So that's why I'm kind of going, there's something there. Well, did not expect that kind of stuff to happen.
For anybody that's listening out there, if you've run across anything that, talks about these galactic beings and specific tones that are helpful in our progression to connecting with them, please put it in the comments. That would be awesome.
Yeah. It's freaking me out. Anyway, so, and this is kind of, again, these are weird questions I'm going to ask you, but with in going back over and reconnecting with these different sources, is there one that feels more up to date and hip with modern man, as opposed to any of them that seem to, feel more comfortable with earlier man?
Yes.
The legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say the
so it wasn't a weird question. I was just kind of
that's a great question.
A really weak question here.
The Pleiadians and the Arcturians, I think, are the ones that are most connected with humanity at this point in time in our evolution, and they work hand in hand anyway.
Okay.
Daniel Scranton does a great job of connecting to the Arcturians. He's on YouTube if you want to hear his daily Arcturian messages, but I think he's started to do a different group as well. But they're super loving, super helpful, very involved in our evolution. There are tons of people who have that connection in their DNA of Pleiadian and Arcturian. You'll find that probably is one of the most connected with.
Oh, that's interesting.
And Leadin as well.
And what do Pleiadians tend to offer us?
Let me see if I can get this right. So,
would you like the book?
I'm quizzing. If you had the fine feature.
Between the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, one of them will explain more about how to accomplish your purpose technically, like how
That's
to actually put it into action. Okay, how to put it into action. The other one, the Pleiadians, then are going to explain more about your purpose, sort of giving you this understanding, this philosophical, the understanding of your of your purpose from the higher level, like comprehending what to do,
Mhm.
understanding where to go and what to do and who to interact with, that type of thing. That's why the two of them work good. First, so the Pleiadians are going to tell you what to do, and the Arcturians are going to show you how to do it, how to get
Mhm.
there, what actions.
And the Lyrans?
And the Lyrans are more heart-centered. They're
Okay.
really, really heart-centered. And I have a heart-centered meditation from the Lyrans
Okay.
on my website, drallisonbrown.com, under resources. If you want to connect with the Lyrans, it's about 10 minutes or so.
Yep.
But they really are getting you to drop down. Everything that comes through always goes back to the heart. That's what
Mhm.
it's all about.
Mhm.
Well, and it's interesting, and you did a good job recalling those things, because as you go through these in the book, like they really do. I mean, they each have their place in what's going on, and
Mhm.
it's just super fascinating. Okay,
yeah.
so which ones seem to be more attached to earlier man?
Polarians,
Mhm.
and that's why there aren't many at all humans that have a Polarian strand right
Mhm.
now. They were very much involved in the early beginning. I think,
Martians.
yeah, the Martians.
Because they were really on the forefront, on the beginning stages of humanity.
Right,
Yeah.
of creating humans in,
In their form, wasn't it?
Mhm.
yes, on Mars.
God, look at you remembering things.
They actually, and that's why they became a very much a 5D civilization embodied, because
Mhm.
they had to do it to teach us how to do it. So
Ah.
they did everything, created communities, families, the whole thing, very much like humans.
But they didn't do it physically.
Yes, they
Oh, they
did.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, but on a 5D level?
Yes.
Okay.
I think they said if we were looking back at them back then, they would be like 4 to 5D, I think
Oh.
is what they said.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Because those are still embodied, the 5D. We're going to be in 5D soon, embodied.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were very much on the front end
Mhm.
of all of that.
And were there any that were just kind of, while they were doing their job, they just kind of disconnected with man? Like that's not their thing, was to be involved with humans?
No, they're all
Okay.
very much,
They all had their specific role in the development or the bringing forth of
throughout time.
humanity. Yeah.
Okay.
But they all are very much concerned about humanity and our evolution and what happens to humanity. They're all very much involved in the project of humanity and
Okay,
want to see what
concerned.
happens.
When you use the word concerned, does that mean worried or just
No,
invested?
not worry, invested. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a better word.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Invested in our progress
Okay.
in a loving way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so so like you were saying, when you first interviewed, you were getting this information from those races that were willing to tell you about future stuff, you're like, yeah, because that's what you're super excited about and everything. But having gone through the information the first time to create the book, and then going back to create this course, what information kind of struck you the second time around that you didn't really give as much oomph to the first time? Was there anything that just kind of surprised you, made you go, I didn't notice this before? Or
I don't know that there was anything that I didn't notice the first time, but there were things that struck me just as powerfully. And that is when I think it was the Lyrans that said, when you come and channel us, when you talk to us, when you come into relationship with us, you come on an equal plane. We don't want your reverence. We don't want your deference. We don't want you to feel like grateful from a holier, that like we're holier than thou, or that we're better than you. You come to us on an equal plane. We all are the same in the multidimensional aspect. And so, yes, have gratitude in your heart, because that's how you connect. That's what opens up your heart field, this sense of gratitude for all that is and all you are and all that we are and all of that, but not gratitude. Thank you for coming to see little old lowly me. And so that was so important. That really changed
message.
Yeah.
my perspective. And a matter of fact, the girl that contacted me from New York, she said that was one of the things that struck her as well. And she was appreciative because she felt the same way, that we shouldn't be humble like that. Not that we're supposed to be arrogant about anything, but even, that we're all equal. So that was one of my favorite teachings.
I like that. Okay. So any changes to either of y'all's channeling, the way the information comes through, any kind of changes since having interacted with them in such an intense way, or any other openings that you can think of that have adjusted? Different perceptions, change in lifestyle, any of that?
I wouldn't necessarily say a change in lifestyle. I would say that, it's for me, being the channel, it's just evolving that process. So, this was taking an aspect of my channeling to a whole nother level. So it's not that I'm the one that's actually doing the channeling. It's actually Allison doing the channeling. I'm just tapping into that stream to bring it into reality, or bringing that stream of consciousness through me. So if somebody would have said, prior to this, hey, this is something you can try, I'd be like, I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
Because it's not coming through me, it's coming through somebody else. But now having this experience, well, that just opens my line of process up even further. So
how many other things could happen?
Right.
Doors wide open.
And so, have I experimented with it? No, but I mean, I think now if there's subsequent information that needs to come out for maybe a part 2, or maybe some individual, thing, knowing that Allison can align her vibration to whatever needs to come through, all I need to do is just sit there and be ready to receive that through.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more of an evolution of my channeling ability, or a channeling process, versus anything that may have affected my everyday life. Now, has it? It probably has. I don't.
You haven't been
seen
tested with it yet.
Right. I haven't been tested with it yet. But I've always felt an alignment to any of the galactics. Anytime we've channeled them, whether it's been at our, at the spiritual co-op, Bliss spiritual co-op that we go to, or, any other time we gather and somebody wants to speak to a certain galactic being or whatever, or galactic group or council, it's made the connection easier. It's made the process easier, because
probably because your body's acclimated to the energy too, to that high level of energy.
Yeah.
I would say, I think for me, I've talked here honestly, because that's what we do here, about self-worth issues. I've had those moments where I felt like my skill set wasn't equal to that of yours or other people whose gifts were more obvious, who could connect like that. And so I think this whole project really boosted my confidence, similar to the way basic training boosted my physical confidence, that they connected with me. They didn't connect with Will per se. They connected with me, and that I was the receiver for that transmission. It was in my contract, and I heard it correctly. So all of these were confirmations, and it really helped me, I think, to understand that we all have a unique role, and none is better than the other. And we all serve a purpose. We're all a piece of the puzzle. And so my piece of the puzzle brought forth this information for humanity that's helpful to people. And so I think for me, that in conjunction with the Leadin information about being in gratitude, heartfelt gratitude for the relationship, but knowing that I'm equal, rather than seeing these beings as, wow, I'm so humble. I'm so happy that they want to come in and talk to me. That I felt that way for such a long time. I was like so deeply appreciative, but in a way that was, I can't believe they want to talk to me, like me of all people. Why would they talk to us? It is trippy. It really is. And I'm just so grateful and so appreciative for all of this, and to know that this is my divine contract and I'm following it. And it's, no matter what you're doing on this earth, if you're following your divine contract and it, it's just a beautiful feeling.
Well, it's funny because, like, in the scope of things, like, you're sitting here saying, why would they want to talk with me? The fact that they wanted to, and yet that's, ego and being in the small, where, through all the channelings with the collective that you are this multidimensional, you're existing in so many, you are so much bigger than just this part that's playing Allison, that it's like, you're just tapping yourself going, oh, we need you to do this part now. Yeah, that's right. I agreed to do this. The bigger part of you saying that. So it's so trippy how we all do that and we compare. And, what's fun is moving into this space of, I'm just going to do my thing. I actually told my husband the other day, I said, hon, I think I just got to be weird. And he looks at me and I said, I try to couch things so that you can understand it. And so that I'm being like, just kind of not freaking you out and stuff. And I said, I think that I just got to now step in and say all the weird stuff and not couch it with, okay, this could be conspiracy theory, or like, I'm not being a conspiracy theory, whatever it is, or, I just need to go lay in the grass or whatever the weird thing is. And he's actually able to receive it. He's like, bring it on, just say it. And I said, I'm going to say it as just, as it wants to come out. And it's like owning that.
But that's empowering your authentic self. Mm-hmm. When you try to sugarcoat or change the language or bring it through in a different way for somebody else to hear, well, you're doing two things. In my opinion, you're doing two things. You're discrediting yourself and you're discrediting the person who's receiving it, because by you not bringing through the authenticity of your language, no matter what that is, however you want to bring that through, whether it's conspiracy theories or not, it doesn't matter. It's your authentic self. But you're also discrediting the person listening, because now you're bringing it down to a level where they actually may not be at. They actually might.
That's a really good point. You're assuming that they're not ready to hear this.
Right.
Well, now Lee Carroll was just in an interview. He channels Cryon, and he was just interviewed, and the interviewer asked that question to both him and the other woman who channels with
Monica,
them.
I think her name is.
And she's owning it. She's just there. And I guess, is Lee older or something? And like, he's just like, I've learned, don't say anything, because they just can't get it. He's given up, but then he's also been out in the forefront.
He has been,
for a long time,
at least 30 years.
So he's the difference that I think we're facing, and I'm getting goosebumps. So I'm like, I know I'm right about this. Is that, or this is truth is a better way to say it. Is that he came up through that time when there were so many naysayers and shut your mind down. And we, our belief is we can't talk about that stuff. No. Whereas, now at this time, us talking about this, we've stepped into an era where people are hungry. They know there's something more and they're hungry for it. And like, I was even listening to a thing about, again, going back to the generations, Gen Zs, that they don't buy into any of the past stuff. Like, they are totally wide open, and, they've got their discernment hats on, and they are just like, they don't buy into the corporate BS. And, like, they are they are so made for this world. Yeah. So it is easier for us to say, this is who I feel I am today. And you could turn around and say to them the next day, this is who I am today.
Right.
And they just go, cool, man. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
This is good.
And the other thing is, when you're speaking in alignment to somebody, your higher self is going to not only influence the words that you say, but the way it's received.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So even if you're saying something off the cuff and you think that might not be received, or you might even regret the way you said something, when it's in alignment, they're going to receive what they need in the way that they need it.
Yep.
Well, even if they give you a negative reaction, it's you might have been the fifth person to have spoken those words, and they're just kind of going, what the hell? But you might be the one that breaks through, that they finally just go, oh, there's something going on here.
There's a there.
There's a there.
Yeah. And so you can't, so if you hold back, this is like realization right now, that if you hold back from being your authentic self, you might have robbed them. Like, they might spend another, however many, I think if they're lined up to experience, they're going to eventually awaken, experience, whatever. But you might have robbed them of an additional month in this lifetime where they would have opened up, and you could have had that connection going. So, okay. So we don't have so much time left. So I want to jump into this whole course. which is super exciting. Have you decided what the course name is?
Yeah.
Well, it's really just the origin story book study.
Okay.
It's a book study, really, more than a course.
It's a workbook.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's a workbook.
Workbook. So what's interesting is Toby Elbel, who we also interviewed here, she did the sigils at the top of each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, around the time that she was doing the sigils, she asked me in a conversation, are these like sigils proprietary? Because I'm feeling, because she came up with them, but it was through her connection to the 12. Because she said, I'm really feeling like I need to do a card deck with them. And so as we had that conversation on the phone, we were just both getting lit up with this information. And
So
then
much fun.
I don't know if it was she or I, we were like, there's 3 pieces here. There's 3 pieces. There's supposed to be a card deck, the book, and then we both at the same time said journal or workbook.
Yeah.
So we knew that there were 3 pieces to this project and that she was going to be a part of it. So she is contributing. So we started with the workbook first. And as we were doing the workbook, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if the 2 authors actually taught the book study ourselves? Because the point is that anybody can do the workbook on their own, or somebody could take it and like go to their own spiritual co-op or get a group in your living room and go through it together. Everybody has the workbook and a book. Anybody can do that. That's fine. It'd be fantastic to do that. But we thought it'd be fun if we taught it ourselves. And we thought January is a good time to start. And I think the workbook will be done in October-ish sometime.
That's exciting.
And so what's exciting about the workbook, we went through and we picked out all of the key concepts in each of the chapters, because it's so overwhelming that on the front end, we want you to kind of get an idea of what you're looking for, what you're reading for, or when you're done, look back and say, hey, did I pick up all these key concepts? What we thought, Toby and I, were the most important points.
Yep.
And then I came up with some discussion questions that would be great in a book club atmosphere, just things, like the Andromedan said this about humans. Do you find that this is true for you? Or why do you think humans act this way, or whatever it is? And so it gives some discussion
and reflection.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because you internalize a lot when you're reading it, but the difference of having that discussion, like, people are going to say things that you're going to, like a mirror, is this comfortable? Is it not comfortable?
Right.
And, and so it expands upon itself.
Yeah. Right. And then Toby was being guided to add a final sigil. So there's a secondary sigil that's larger. She's been doing these larger ones, if you're watching her Facebook page, that have like a whole story behind them.
Yep.
And so on the last page of each chapter in the workbook, there's going to be that sigil along with a message from that galactic cluster, kind of encapsulating
integration point.
Yeah, a point of integration of their energy with you and in your daily life.
Yeah.
And so it's meant to go through week by week. That's why it's 12 weeks for the 12 chapters. And yeah, we're super excited about it. It's really going to be, I think, a helpful, because we've heard from so many people that have said it's just so dense. And even I've read it like pretty much 3 times. And it's next to impossible to remember.
But dense in a good way, not dense like it's like completely gonna. Well, it might completely.
Well,
it might blow your mind up, but it's
not dense that you can't get through it.
Exactly.
It's just so heavy with information,
the concepts. Like you can read a couple of paragraphs and just go, what?
Yeah,
what? And you get lit up and you have all that excitement. You have no one to share it with.
Right.
Like, or, that feeling of love. I mean, can you imagine being in this course and discussing, what the ones who do the love, Hadarians, and everyone feeling that and being in that space and discussing it. Oh my God. I just think that would be so cool.
Yeah. And I think it would be fun. I'm an avid reader and I would have loved to have done something like this with an author, and I've never had that opportunity. So I think that people will have fun with us hearing our perspective perhaps, or we would have fun bouncing our perspective off of others and hearing what others have to say about what they've read. So our goal is to start this in January and go for 12 weeks, during the months when people are mostly inside.
And it just dawned on me. that it's going to force me to read the entire book week by week.
You've gotten through the first 3 chapters.
I've gotten through the first 3 chapters. And yes, I will say that it is, I agree with you that as you're reading it really, for me, I have to go back and like reread even just a sentence, because in that one sentence, it's just like my mind is blown. I'm like, what in the world? One, I'm coming at it from somebody that's never read it. And 2, I'm coming from the place that I channeled this, or I was the voice for this. And I'm like, where did this come from?
Well, because you don't usually examine your own words. The rest of us are going,
right. It's so to me, it's so mind blowing. It is, but it's so amazing for sure.
So this will be really, really a lot of fun. I would suggest that people keep an eye on our Treehouse calendar, treehouse-events.com for start dates, and also Facebook.
Do you recommend people to go ahead and get it and give it a read through before that?
That's completely up to them. Since we're going to do it week by week, it's I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's appropriate if they want to be able to read it and have it fresh in your memory, or you can go through it, one time and
fresh
then do it again week by week.
And again, I think, it's one of those things that as you're like having gone through it the first time, my mind was exploded a few times. Like I was just walking around with a totally different perspective of the world. And so my personal opinion, having read it, you'll be fine going through the course, but if you're suspecting, if you read this, like you hear about it, read the back of the book, feel out whether you ought to consider reading it first, because I think that you can dive deeper in your course.
Yeah, I think
if you've read it through one time, because it's not that they're using terminology that's so different, but the concepts literally are rearranging. I swear to God, they're rearranging your brain synapses and stuff. And so if you've read through it once and then go through the course, it's just a different level. But again, you're going to record all of this, so the people who are in the course will be able to go back and read it again.
And rewatch.
If they miss a week, they can listen again.
Yep.
Well, and she's saying it's just this journey, this book club and stuff. But trust me, you will end up not the same at the end of it. And especially doing this as a group and having that reflection with people, it's just going to be a whole other level of insights and and it's not just because you guys are my friends that I'm like this hype girl. It's nice. Well, but to experience it. Okay. So we said they can go to your website to keep up on palmandlotus.com. And are you going to give them updates, get them primed and ready for when you're doing this? Or are you just going to suddenly announce one day we're doing this
most of our updates are on Facebook or the Treehouse calendar when we're going to be setting up the dates pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll end up getting that up there, and obviously we're going to get it up there before we even publish the workbook to get everybody in place, and then obviously you'll be notified of when the workbook comes out, and you'll be able to either purchase it through us or through we'll have it up on Amazon as well. So
well, they'll be able to get the workbook that way, but through So I'm just going to preface this. This is starting after Christmas. So this was a really good Christmas gift for yourself or for someone that is really into this stuff. And it's also a good New Year's project, because you were really going
resolution.
We're talking about the whole everything going on with the Ascension, that it's going to be hitting its max around July.
That's a good point.
And so January. Yeah. So having this as a guide of the insanity, like just actually what it's going to cause you to do is back away from the insanity and immerse yourself into the excitement of where we're moving towards.
Hopefully to get you unplugged enough that you actually see the bigger perspective of existence versus just the narrow bandwidth of what you see in front of you on news or coming into your ears from whatever you're listening to. It's going to give you a much broader perspective of existence. I mean, not
Mhm.
just not just our, our little human selves upon this little blue marble. There's a greater
Mhm.
aspect to all this.
I have one more quick question that I feel like is really important, because there's a lot of kids coming into this world now that are this world's not fulfilling enough for them. They know there's more. There's like, so this particular course that you're running, is this one, I imagine it's going to be geared towards adults. Are you considering, well, I just didn't know, like maybe there'd be adult content, like, concepts that would be discussed that maybe wouldn't be as good for a 15-year-old, but would you consider designing a course for younger people?
I don't know that this, I hadn't thought about that. It's one thing to do Reiki with kids. I don't know that I don't know if I'm ready to go there with that.
Mhm.
Not that I think kids couldn't handle it. If there's a child that's 15, 16, 17 or something, and their parent is also doing the course,
Mhm.
and they can be talking about it and reading together, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't rule out the fact that a youngster could possibly be ready for that and read it and be fine. I'm
Mhm.
sure, but I
I would
wouldn't
think-
want to be the judge of that.
Yeah. I think that
Okay.
I would believe there would be a number of the youth out there that are probably well beyond
In their soul
comprehending it.
level.
Yeah.
What
Right,
made
right,
me
right.
think
Yeah.
about this is, I loved reading Neil Donald Walsh's books, Conversations
Yeah.
with God. Literally was that first thing
catalyst.
that, like,
Me
I mean,
too.
I remember reading it one night while I was with my in-laws, and the next morning I woke up and the whole world had shifted. Like I could not see it the same. And that was in the second book.
You had very similar
Oh,
experiences.
gosh,
with-
It was huge. So, but then he was given that calling or whatever to do one for teenagers.
Mhm.
So who knows? Maybe there'll be a follow-up
Maybe.
that, adjusts it a little bit, because, it's the truth, but it's a big truth, kind of like
Yeah.
the same with Neil Donald Walsh's, Conversations with God. That was a big truth.
Yeah.
But there was so many nuggets in it
Yeah.
that I think was good for younger people,
Yeah.
because it explains some of the insanity, and it gave them a level ground to like deal with what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because I think there's that incongruity for them
Sure,
right now.
sure.
Anyway, just my 2 cents.
The only other thing I want to be clear about is that anybody who wants to do a book study on this book, like any other book that you would do, get a group, get the workbook, get the book, and do it.
This isn't just for us to do with other people. We're designing this workbook for anybody to purchase and start their own book club with it.
Kind of
or
like a Course in Miracles.
Or even
kind of
do it
thing.
on your
Sure.
own. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right,
or
right.
take it upon yourself just to work through the workbook yourself and be immersed in the information. Sure.
Because it's
Right.
kind of going to be like a Course in Miracles, because it's going to shift you.
It is definitely going to
Gonna
shift you.
Yeah.
Between the sigils and in the transmissions from each of the 12. It's
The energy of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Expect good things.
Cool.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was fun. Thanks,
That
Samantha.
was so great. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited we did this.
Sorry for the 1 hour infomercial, if that's what it seemed
No, it's
like,
not
but this
at all.
is just really fun. We want to share this with people, not because we're trying to make money, but this is important.
Yes.
This is really important for
is.
humanity. And we're excited to share this with you guys. And we hope that we'll see some of you all in the book study in January.
Yeah.
But until next time, we thank you so much for spending your time with us on our podcast. Till next time.
See you guys.
See you later.
Bye.